Okay, we have two last speakers for you today, and they are both unbelievable. Like, the fact that we have them here at this event is really special to have a lot of these speakers here. They have years of experience. They've been giving talks for many, many years. This next speaker gave a talk called "The Internet is My Religion" a long time ago, and I remember watching that video, and it's just like, it's only 12 minutes, and it's one of the most inspiring talks I had ever seen. And like, when I reached out to see if he'd be interested in speaking here, you know, it turns out it's right up their alley. He's the founder of a platform called Nation Builder, which is all around community organizing. He's somebody who just understands this space in a really unique way, and just has a very powerful perspective, and he's an amazing storyteller and an amazing speaker. So, our second to last speaker, please help me and give a big, warm CMX welcome to Gilliam.
Am I blocking the screen? So yeah, that's me. A book about my life, The Internet is My Religion. I have to give big thanks to my co-author, Leah Endress. That would never have happened without her. And Nation Builder, software for leaders. The work that I've been doing with Nation Builder, there we go, has really caused me to constantly get this question of, is it possible to form real, authentic community online? I get asked this all the time, and like, the internet is my religion, right? So obviously, I should be the one that knows the answer to this. And the sad fact is, I don't think that it can. I'm sure there are like exceptions, but in general, my experience has been that real, authentic community generally doesn't happen online. And what online is really great for is those initial connections, the people that you're interested in, maybe professionally or because of what they care about, where like you follow them on Twitter and you learn more about who they are, and all of those initial connections are amazing, and the internet is fantastic for that. Something that can be really challenging in person for introverts like me. And then, once you are already part of a community or have the relationships, the internet can be a great way to stay in touch. Over time, Facebook is like legendary for this, including people that you may not totally want to stay in touch with for forever. But the internet can be really great for that too. There's then this middle part though, where real, authentic community actually forms, and it generally has to happen in person. A lot of times, particularly in a professional context, it happens like places like this, at conferences, largely by accident, at parties or at networking events or in the halls and things like that. And so you need sort of the combination of those two things to form a real, authentic community. So I was talking to Leah, our chief of staff, about this, and it's like there's got to be some solution to this. And so we got into sort of the meta thing, like, okay, what does community even mean? And so we Googled it, of course, and we stumbled upon this organization called the Foundation for Community Encouragement. And, well, I stumbled on it because Leah had known about it for like decades, and it just reminded her that she could text one of the founders. And what I learned about was the work of this man, M. Scott Peck. He was the thought leader behind the founding of this organization. And is the audio okay? Sorry, okay. He was the thought leader behind sort of a lot of this community building work, and he wrote a book called The Road Less Traveled. It sold like millions of copies in the late 70s and 80s. It was sort of about making a life that's like worth living. But he wrote this other book called The Different Drum. And it's all about community making and peace. And so I like went down the rabbit hole. I got the book, and the first line in the introduction says, "In and through community lies the salvation of the world." And I was like, I don't know if I believe that, but I want to. I really want to believe that. So obviously I read through the book. It's a great book, you should get it. But in it, he describes the different stages of community, which I found have really been helpful for me. So the first stage is what he calls pseudo-community. And the best way that I've figured out how to sort of describe this is it's, the dinner parties that you can go to, and it's like, a handful of kind of friends, people sort of know each other, and everyone's like really polite. Nobody wants to talk about politics or religion so much because, like, any conflict, we don't want to upset anybody. And then afterwards, you're like in the car or on the subway going home with your significant other. You sort of like talk trash about like the other people there. Like where like the real stuff kind of comes out. That's pseudo-community. That is how 99.9% of the world operates, and it's most people's experience with community. At some point, when people get close enough to each other, they kind of can't avoid each other anymore, like shit starts to get real. They stop being polite, and they actually start saying the real things. Conflicts emerge, stuff starts to happen that can't be avoided, and what happens is chaos. And chaos is extremely uncomfortable. People are saying things that they should have said like years ago. All kinds of stuff starts to happen, and it is incredibly emotionally painful, and so people will do whatever it takes to get out of chaos. And there are two ways out. The first way out is to organize. So this means like figuring out, can we create a system so that we don't have to like deal with this conflict? Can I figure out a way around this person? Can I fix them to like do it as like sort of what it is that like I think they should be doing? Like anything at all to avoid having to deal with that conflict. And again, this is most of what happens in the world. So all the laws we have, like the way corporations function, all that stuff is basically versions of like organizing our way out of chaos. The other way out, though, is to empty. And emptying is about letting go of like all of those like preconceived ideas of how other people should behave. It's about letting go of our biases. It's letting go of trying to fix people to make them like more like us. And out of that emptiness process, and it can be really hard to get there, it's possible for a miracle to occur, which is sort of true, authentic community. And real, authentic community is something that sort of is very rare. Very few people have experienced it. Authentic community, for me, the reason I know that it exists is because the emotional experience that I had when literally, my friends in that community of folks came together to save my life, because I needed new lungs. I grew up as a Christian, and the church that we had was really tightly knit. So I knew that there was something here possible, but how on earth do you go about actually creating this? It was great to have this theory, but I'm all about action. I want to figure out what is the thing that I can do that would actually sort of facilitate this process happening. Well, it turns out that there is a process. It can happen in as little as 2 days, and it is kind of miraculous. It happens in person. There are these workshops that are held by the Foundation for Community Encouragement, this tiny little organization that basically nobody knows exists. And it's possible to do in 2 days. So I'm okay, I got to go to this thing. I got to try this. I got to figure out how does this work. And so I go to this place out in the middle of nowhere. There are 30 chairs, or 25, 30 chairs, all set up in a circle. There's no spaces between them at all. There's nothing, no spaces between the chairs. There's nothing in the middle of the circle, nothing at all. And it's going to be 2 days. There are going to be breaks, and there's going to be lunch and stuff like that. A bunch of strangers, largely strangers. Everyone was a stranger to me. And we all sat down, and this one woman kind of sort of separated herself a little. She moved the chairs a little bit, kind of separated herself a little bit from the group. Everyone kind of noticed or whatever. But the facilitators came in, and they shared a couple of logistics. And then they put they showed this on the wall. And this is the Scott Peck sort of founding dream for the organization in this process. It says, "There is a yearning in the heart for peace. Because of the wounds and rejections we have received in past relationships, We are frightened by the risk of disarming ourselves. In our fear, we discount the dream of authentic community as merely visionary. But there are rules by which people can come back together and by which the old wounds can be healed. It is the mission of FCE to teach these rules, to make hope real again, to make the vision actually manifest in a world which has almost forgotten the glory of what it means to be human. And that was the beginning of the day. It's like, we then went into the 12 basic guidelines. I was like, okay, I can handle that. Wear name tags. The next one, be on time for each session. All right, cool. I'm rocking this. I'm in a minute. I got it. The third one is say your name before you speak. Like, okay. Eventually we all kind of know each other's names, right? We have name tags on. Why do you need to do that? Well, turns out the reason to do that is it actually slows the dialogue down, and it forces everyone who's speaking to really own their words. My name is Jim, and then speak. It's really awkward at first, but kind of amazing after you get used to it. The fourth, and this is probably one of the most important ones, is speak personally and specifically using I statements. Frequently when we're talking about difficult things, we like to generalize to not offend anybody. And so because you don't want to say something bad about somebody else. But what's really interesting about this is that by making it a statement from you, your own personal experience, no one can deny your own personal experience. You're not saying anything bad about anyone else. At the same time, you're not generalizing either. So best way to describe this is with an example. It takes a while to sort of really, for me to really understand it, but the difference would be a general statement would be, cancer treatments are really difficult, it sucks, I really wish I didn't have to do it. An I statement would be, my name is Jim. When I was 18 years old, I found out that I had cancer, and I started chemotherapy, and I was throwing up all the time. I couldn't eat lots of times. At one point, I ate something that I shouldn't have eaten, and I got an infection in my bowel. It almost killed me. I had to be rushed to the ICU. I was literally shitting blood. It took weeks and weeks. I had a feeding tube, and I had to be on a drip of Dilaudid, which is like a pharmaceutical-grade heroin. And every time I pressed that button, I felt like I had completely failed. I was totally depressed, and all I wanted to do was for it to be over. Totally different. Fifth is be inclusive, avoid exclusivity. This can be challenging. It's about when you say things, trying not to do it as a means of excluding other people from the group. Sometimes we even say things to exclude ourselves, self-exclusion. The sixth is express displeasure in the group, not outside the circle. So, once things like chaos is emerging, right, within this group, you kind of want to go off to the side during the break and kind of, talk trash about the other people in the circle. But the process really relies upon all of that coming out in the circle in the form of I statements, and it really works very effectively. So we really try to avoid expressing displeasure outside of the group. This one's really important because it gets rough in chaos. People question the process, they question the leadership, they question each other, they question why they're even there, and they want to leave as fast as humanly possible. You've got to commit to hang in there. This is the second one that's really difficult to really grasp until you've experienced it. But speak when moved to speak, don't speak when not moved to speak. It's hard to know what it means to be moved to speak. It is frequently a physical thing for folks. It's different for everybody. For me, my brain gets like totally overwhelmed and I can't think about anything else. I start to like shake a little bit. That's when I know that I moved to speak. But it's important because that combination of being moved to speak and speaking personally in I statements means that what's happening right there for you is it's truly coming from the heart, and that's what makes it possible for people to connect with you and for you to connect with them. Next one is be responsible for your success. Participate verbally or non-verbally. Just your presence there, your body language, like in that circle matters a lot. Be emotionally present with the group. Don't check out. Some people will annoy you, but being sort of really there for them is an important part of the process. And then finally, respect confidentiality. The circle is sacred. It is important that people feel comfortable sharing what's going on for them. So we then sat in silence for almost 30 minutes. No one said anything. It's kind of awkward. And then bit by bit, people started to speak. One person in particular, the woman who had kind of isolated herself a little bit, she was moved to speak an awful lot. I didn't say a whole lot. I didn't say anything at all the first day. We got into the second day, sort of the second half of the second day, so we're sort of just maybe an hour or two from closing. And she was speaking again, and she made this totally offhand remark. Totally throwaway, nobody would have paid any attention to it. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like the thing that I've been sitting with, that I've been struggling with in my own life, in my leadership of my company, and the relationships that I have with my staff. It all like came into focus. And the connection that I then had with her, the person that I had been kind of judging, right, the entire time, trying to fix it, like if she would just do this thing differently, trying to fix her the whole time. Somehow I suddenly knew where she was coming from. I even now remember like what that was like. Someone I never would have met, someone I never would have related to whatsoever, totally offhand comment, sort of helped me understand myself dramatically better and connected me to her and the group. It's important to respect confidentiality, so I wish I could kind of tell you all the things about that circle, but that's not what it's about. So I came home after all of that, sort of really thinking about that, but going back to that original question, like, is it possible to form true, authentic community online? Because I just experienced it offline in this circle, but there was no follow-up after that. So the great thing the internet is great at, that thing afterwards, like keeping in touch with these people that you sort of had a connection with. FC was sort of not great at that. That wasn't part of their process. They were all about this offline. It's like, is there some way to like connect those pieces together? And then I started to like think about all the issues that we face, right, in internet culture, right? All the work that we do, the trolls and the outrage culture, the person who like tweets something and we decide that we're going to destroy their lives in like 10 minutes, and all of that's like somehow right, like just this constant desire to like fix people and be outraged over things that people are doing. What if all that is it's the process of chaos? It's a process of people getting real, the internet provides this opportunity for us to sort of stop being polite. And it's really crude and like weird and sort of, not particularly well designed or anything. But all of this stuff that's happened, all the stuff that we struggle with, that we try to organize and fix our way out of it with voting systems and like how we spend hours talking about how do we moderate all of this, how do we sort of stop the chaos from happening in our community. And what if it's all evidence of this sort of massive global shift toward facilitating true community, and that the stage that we're in right now is actually a beautiful stage, it's a beautiful stage of chaos. And what if the opportunity for us, the people in this room, the people who do this every day, is to start to figure out not just how to organize our way out, and certainly there's a whole variety of situations where that's like the right way to do it. But what if there's another way out, which is about emptying? And you can see elements of this starting to happen online, those blog posts or those posts on Medium, right, where someone tells this sort of deeply personal story related to sort of something that the community overall is dealing with that really connects people to them, helps people understand it and see it in a different way, which then gets a whole bunch of outrage about how awful it was that they did that. But what if those are all sort of processes of emptying? And what gives me a significant amount of hope is the speed at which our culture is learning how to accept people who are different from themselves. Even just it was a little over 10 years ago, the most liberal of presidential candidates, Howard Dean, was against gay marriage, quite passionately against it. He was the most liberal on this issue that there was. Just a few years ago, Obama, the president, was against gay marriage. And now it's you almost have to be a little bit crazy to sort of not be for it. It's that shift happened in just about 10 years. It's remarkable. Never before has something happened, a civil rights-oriented issue happened so fast. And I believe it's a significant result because people are connected through the internet. We're going through this process of chaos, and people are emptying all those stories that people heard from their gay friend or brother or the movie that they saw. All of those stories combined were a process of the culture emptying out all of these feelings and coming to a greater acceptance. You can see it accelerating even faster with the transgender community. Look at how fast that feels. All of a sudden, it feels like it's kind of come out of nowhere for many people. For some folks, it's been on for a very, very long time. But for the broader culture, it's the movement on acceptance of that community is just so dramatically faster than it has ever happened before. And that's what sort of gives me a lot of hope. So I look back at that question, and I look back at this community building process that FCE does and founded by Scott Peck. I'm what if we start to incorporate some of those community building guidelines, right, into the work that we do every day? What if there are intentional, purpose-built community experiences that we create online and offline using those guidelines that make it possible for people to share deeply personal stories about themselves, to come together as a community in a way that they could never have done before, in a way that they never could have done if it had to be in person? Maybe it is possible to form true, authentic community online. Maybe it is possible for us to create a miracle. Thanks.